Hello everybody, welcome to the video. So today, this is going to be another build video. I have a Paladin Tank here that I've built up. It's my friend's character, so he's graciously let me borrow this to do the video for you. So we're going to jump straight into it. You can see I've got my webcam on as well. I thought I'd put my face on it for you guys. There is going to be another video that follows this one as well, which is going to be how to solo tank Tom. Because I've been asked that a couple of times in game, and so is my partner Smithy. So yeah, we'll jump straight into the gear. So first of all, what I'm doing for gear is I'm literally just going for the highest item level gear with the most HP. So at the time when this was being built, it was the Lion Guard's gear. I know there is high item level gear now with the Blessed stuff, because you can refine it higher. So technically you can push that a little bit more HP if you want to. But for the first one, I'm using Lion Guard's Restoration Babut, or whatever it's called, and just modified it with HP. I'm not really worried about the buffs on these. When your stamina's over 75%, your power's increased by 5k. I'm not really worried about that, but utility slot will be a Dark Enchantment at the moment. And I have an overload slot on there for the Bulwark of Brimstone for plus 5% HP. You don't really need that, I just had it on there because I've got loads of them. For the armor then, we've got the Lion Guard gear again. Like I said, I'm not worried about the equip bonus on it. But in the defense slot, I've got a gigantic enchantment because it's HP and defense and deflection, everything a tank needs. And then for the armor enchantment, we've got an Elven Battle. Because the Elven Battle, of course, is what gives you the stamina regen being increased by 40%, which for a tank is all about your stamina. Then for the arms, we've got the Lion Guards again, just for HP. The Escalator Might does help when you're trying to keep aggro, because the more damage you do, the more threat you build. So the 250 power every time you strike an enemy, and it stacks 20 times. You're not really going to get the full 20 stacks because you are the tank, you're there to take the damage, so you're taking lots of hits. So you're not necessarily going to get that 20 stacks all the time, but yeah, it's the best one because of the HP that I use. Again, I've modded it with HP, we've got a Dark Enchantment, and the only reason the Greater White Dragon Glyph is on there and I haven't taken it off, purely because I sometimes use this character for Paladin healing as well, so for shielding, and that's the only reason that's on there, but that wouldn't necessarily be there. And then obviously for the weapons, we've got the Lionheart weapons at the moment. Haven't done Zariel with this character, but he is more than ready for it. But yeah, Lionheart weapons in offensive slots. I'm using duo and tri-stat enchantment. So I've got the Savage enchantment here and the Gigantic enchantment with the Bronzewood, because obviously the Bronzewood is the best one for a tank at the moment, purely because you mark the target and they take 10% more damage for 10 seconds. And they'll also receive minus 3000 deflection, so it means more of your allies' hits will hit. Then it's also had a modification for Oath Strike, because Oath Strike is your skill which increases your threat, so the more damage you do with that, the more threat you're going to build up. And that's it for the main hand. For the offhand then, we have modifications of HP and stamina regen, with a defense slot having a Radiant enchantment for the HP, and an offense slot having a Tenebrous. Arguably, you could put a Radiant there for the extra power, but a Tenebrous is fine for the way this character plays, so that's why it's there. For the boots, again, we've just gone for the Lion Guard stuff because more HP. It's been modified with HP and it's got a Dark Enchantment on it for that companion influence, which unfortunately is going soon, but this is the current build at the moment. For the gear set then, we're going for the Rune of Fortification, which is a reflective collar, the mirror-plated belt, and the erratic drift globe, purely because the bonus on it, when you use daily power, decreases your incoming damage by 5%. That at the moment is very good. Obviously in the new updates coming out, it's not really going to matter because we can cap defense, so it doesn't really matter. But at the moment, this is the set I use. Again, utility is a Dark Enchantment, and then I do have a Radiant for more power on offense here. It's been modified with stamina regen, so it's got a stamina jewel on it, and same for the two rings, and the belt has got stamina regen on it. The belt has got a Dark Enchantment in utility and then a Gigantic in defense. Arguably I could swap the Gigantic and the Radiant here, but as you can see, stats are sort of capped for most things for offense, apart from combat advantage. So yeah, I don't really need the I don't need the extra stats from the gigantic, so we can just go straight into power with the radiant. For the rings, I'm using a radiant, and then in defense gigantic, again the same reason. I'm already capped on the defensive stats, so why do I need to put an get more HP from the radiant and then more offensive stats from the gigantic? I just don't need it on this character, so that's why that's there. And then for the other ring then, because it's 2 defense slots, I got radiance in them purely for the HP again. This also helps if when you've been running for 1 second, you gain 10% increased damage resistance as long as you continue running. And not so much in Tom you're moving around, but you are going back and forth when you're taking the big balls that Halaster does, so it does help. And then finally for the shirt and trousers is the Infernal Forged, purely again for the HP. And there's an offense in the shirt, and sorry, there's a radiant in the offense on the shirt and a radiant in the defense on the trousers. And again, the radiant defense is for HP, and in the offense for power. And now, in terms of artifacts, I'm only using 2 bucks because I do, even though the 3 bucks would give more HP and more power, I'm already at nearly 1.1 mil HP. Obviously, if I take the 5% thing off, it will go down a little bit to like 1.05 million, something like that. But at the moment that's on, so that's where the HP is at. But purely I use the Wyvern Venom Coated Knives because it causes them to deal 12% less damage. And when you're tanking, that along with using a Griffin, as you can see the Mount Bolster here is only 44%, but still that's nearly 20% decreased damage just by using those 2 artifacts and the mount. And then obviously I'm using 2 bucks and then the Drift Globe to go with the set. And that's it for gear. If we then go over to boons, we'll do boons next. From the Guild Stronghold, I'm using Critical Severity, HP, and it would be Revive Sickness because I'm out in the world at the moment. It is Mount Speed, but yeah, Revive Sickness. And then in the campaigns, at the moment, it's all power. Don't really need the one in Critical Strike, it's just there were points to put somewhere. But definitely one HP, so you got power and HP, and then movement speed and companion influence. And then the rest of them then it's sort of dotted around of where you need stats and that too. But incoming healing, definitely on tier 5, along with stamina regen. And then as your master boon, you want focused retaliation, purely because you can mirror the incoming damage back to the attacker, which when you're taking a big ball from Halaster, it can do a lot of damage. And it helps to keep the threat as well, because it counts as your damage going out to him, increasing your aggro. Next we'll do mounts. So under mounts, like I said, I use the Griffin. I do have Stalwart on, purely for the HP. I probably don't really need it, I could put something else on, but because the bolster's only 44%, I'd rather have just the extra HP than anything else. In the stable itself then, I've only got 1 collar, which is encounter powers, because this is where you get your aggro from with the smite, which I'll go through in a bit. And then for your insignias, I've purely got all fortitude and prosperity, because prosperity gives HP, and fortitude gives HP and defense. And now you can see defense is smack on the cap, really. So this insignia setup here is perfect, because it caps the defense as well. So I will move on now to companions. So as you all know, bondings will be going, but at the moment, free bonding 15s. And I'm using Goldleaf Grimoire for the combat advantage, with 2 Recondites for accuracy, because accuracy is the thing I'm lacking on this tank. But it's not a major issue because I can still hold the aggro easily, because the power and the crit strike and all that is all capped. And then using a silver icon of the companion, which is armor pen and critical strike, with an arcane runestone and a profane, so 1 for armor pen and 1 for critical strike. And then finally platinum icon of the companion with an arcane runestone and a profane rank 9. Ideally I would want to swap that profane rank 9 out, but I haven't got anything that would benefit what I need at the moment, so This is why I'm using this. And then I am using the Bullet Pup as a summoned companion. The bolster is at 15% as well, so I'm getting the max from it. So here you can see we got the 5 others. And then at the bottom then, we're purely going for all the companions that can give HP. So Cave Bear, Iron Golem, Energon, Moonsage Druid, and the Bard's Discipline, or Bard, whatever you want to call him. And we are using Redemption just for that extra heal over time. When we need it, when it procs, it just is useful and helpful. Yeah, so that's it for companions. We'll talk about powers next. This will be the last section. So for at-wills, we've got Oath Strike because it increases the threat. We've got Shielding Strike because it helps with stamina restoration. So if you are running low on stamina, you can smack a couple of those out and get your stamina back up. We've got the 3 skills that I tend to use will be Sacred Weapon because it deals extra damage, your attacks restore stamina, and you get increased threat from using that skill. Sometimes I use Absolution, other times I use Vow of Enmity. Absolution is the better skill out of the two, purely because it makes you take 20% less damage, and when you've got a couple of stacks in Tom, it really does help you with reduced damage intake. And then finally, the last skill is Smite. It's your biggest hitting skill. It does cost 220 divinity, so it is quite a pricey skill. And the magnitude will decrease as your divinity decreases, but because we use this feat, and you'll always use this feat in single target, Smite now gets the added effect of placing you at the top of the threat list of the target. Smite may now be charged. When fully charged, it will not place you at the top of the threat list. So you're literally just going to tap R and Smite. You're not going to hold it down to do more damage or anything, you're just going to tap R and Smite. And that's why we will always use Smite in single target. When I'm in Tom, you will see in the next video that I start off with Relentless Avenger instead of having Sacred Weapon on. And then once Relentless Avenger is cooled down, I will swap it to Sacred Weapon. And as soon as that's cooled down, then I will pop that. And you'll see how I do it in that next video. Purely because it's the quickest way to get in and aggro Halaster. Sorry about that, I had to cough. So for dailies, there aren't really many dailies that I use. I don't tend to use dailies when I'm in Tom. But the one I do use if I need to is Heroism. Increases your max HP by 20%, restores the amount increased, and increases damage dealt by 10%. And that lasts for 12 seconds. So yep, that's what I use when I'm in Tom. I do have this slotted, but I don't really use it for anything. So it's just to have something slotted because you gotta have 2. Mechanics, I'm sure if you're a paladin you already know what the mechanics are, but you do have a tab skill which is Divine Champion. It doubles the effectiveness of your auras and it drains divinity over time. You will automatically block half the damage of all attacks as long as stamina remains, and you get control immunity. Stamina regeneration is reduced when you're using the tab skill. When you're using the tab skill and you hold shift, you also shield damage, and it's just like an extra shield on top. You do have your Oath of Protection, which increases your threat generated. You automatically get 40% more HP and decreases your damage dealt by 10% because you are a tank, you are not a DPS. Your Justicar's Charge, restore divinity whenever you block an attack. The amount of divinity that may be restored in this manner is limited but regenerates over time. So that is when you're blocking, you will restore divinity, which is another useful tip to remember. And then you've also got Divine Palisade, replaces block when Divine Champion is active. So this is what I was on about. When you use tab and then you hold shift, you raise the divine value of your shield, absorbing damage up to 75% of your total max HP. Damage taken while blocking depletes your stamina. You may not move or attack while under the effects of Divine Palisade, and stamina does not regenerate. You are immune to most control effects, decrease damage taken by self and allies in a cone behind you by 10%, heals self and allies in a cone behind you for a magnitude of 200. So this not only reduces more damage you take, it will also reduce damage your allies take, it will also heal your allies behind you, and yeah, you can turn it on and off because it's literally just tab. So I'll show you here quickly. If we're in the game here and we just hit tab, and this is what it looks like, and then when you hit shift, now you're blocking everything and making them take 10% less damage behind you, you're taking less damage, and it's also reducing your it's also healing your allies behind you as well, which is even more helpful. So yeah, that, and then you can just tab again to turn it off, and that's pretty much it. For class feats, I'm just using decreasing the threat generated by nearby party members by 5%, and Divine Challenger, the one that grants Smite. And then finally for the feats, we have Sacred Shield, because Sacred Weapon will now increase threat and restore stamina with every strike. Sorry, never cough then. In the second one, I don't really need either of these, so I just chose one, and I chose this one for when soloing. On the third one, Divine Pursuit and counter powers which cost Divinity now grant Pursuit, causing at-will attacks to restore Divinity. So that comes hand in hand when you're using your at-wills to increase your threat, or increase your stamina, like get more stamina back. And then on the fourth one, Sheltering Light, whenever you are healed, party members under the effect of your Shield of Faith are now healed for 50% of the value you are healed for. Very good for group play. I don't use it. And then finally, the last one I use is Unyielding Champion. The divinity cost of Divine Champion is reduced by 10, and both Divine Champion and Divine Palisade now block up to 75% of your total maximum hit points. Yeah, it basically says what it is on the tin. So that's it for the tank build that I have. What I will do now is I will be jumping into a Tom very soon, and I will explain as much as I can as I'm going through how to solo tank the trial. So yeah, let me know your feedbacks, drop a like and subscribe on the video, and don't forget to follow us over on Twitch as well at twitch.tv/Smithy1592. Cheers guys, have a good one.